What's good people? So the first thing I want to say here is that I'm not making this video to pass judgment on anyone. We're simply examining, right, the things that are going on in our community, okay? And if you feel offended by this in any way, I'm just going to ask you to take a look in the mirror. As I said again, I'm not here to attack people. This is an exposure of the way in which our communities function and operate. I'm going to let you be the judge of whether this is good, bad, indifferent, or ugly, or whatever you want to call it. All right. So a few years back, when Marcus Houston married, all right, his fiance, who at the time I believe was 19 or 20 years old, something like that. But nonetheless, she was 19 years his junior, right? The internet was in an uproar, right? Marcus Houston was labeled a predator, a monster, all these negative things, even though though his wife is observably happy. This is a happy family, okay? That's number one. B, Mr. Houston did not make her a baby mama. Mr. Houston found this woman worthy of a ring and put a ring on it and married her, right? Chose to do things the right way before our creator, right? And you have people, women, who are excuse my language, single parents, never married, judging the actions of Mr. Houston, right? Presumably, let's just say he's a well-off man, okay? Seems to have a dang good head on his shoulders and chooses to get with a young woman. I personally didn't see anything wrong with that. People wanted to go into the backstory. I judge a fruit by its outcome, right? And what I see is the outcome. They're now on their second child. But when I look at the outcome of this situation, I am left to draw no other conclusion than God bless them, they did it right. I listen. So you can catch my drift is that ultimately I don't see an issue with what we call age gap dating, right? I mean, it's taboo in the Black community, I notice, but in other communities, it's very normal, especially in communities who have gone through oppression, such as what we have, right? Because we have this situation in America where oftentimes it will take the Black man, I'm just being honest, oftentimes it will take the Black man a little bit longer to get to a point of stability in his life because of the instability of his upbringing. But that is a separate conversation that I don't want to talk about. Okay, I'm just painting and laying this foundation. But what we have now is this situation with Draya Michele, okay, and Jaylen Green, right, who is a 21-year-old NBA player for, I believe he's playing for the Houston Rockets, okay? This is his third year in the league, and he's fairly new. And his numbers, I was actually looking at his statistics. His numbers are actually a bit down this year compared to his 2021-22 season. Jaylen Green's been caught up in several of not scandals, but he was caught on video humping his teammate and just wilding out. The boy obviously lacks discipline, okay, to some extent. Maybe the money came so fast that he was not prepared in terms of how to like navigate and manage, but we're not going to get into all of that. He's a young man. That's the whole point. He is a young man. And now he is expecting a child by Draya Michele. So the question we have to ask ourselves, and again, I said I'm not against this whole age gap dating thing. I think that age gap dating can work when the older person is doing or represents in the relationship what they're supposed to represent, right? So in the example of Marcus Houston and his wife, who's 19 years younger than him, you look at this and you say, is Marcus Houston able to protect, provide, and lead his wife? And I look at his life and I look at who he is, and I have to answer yes, yes, and yes. Okay, it's clear. He's a mature presence in her life, providing her with love, safeguarding her heart, security, etc. So what about Jaylen Green and this woman, Draya Michele? What should she represent as a 39-year-old woman trying to be in a relationship with a 21-year-old man. What should she represent and what should she not? I'm not judging the fact that they're age gap dating. I'm judging the result, and I'm looking at, based on what I'm seeing, is this older person doing what they're supposed to do, which they should. Okay. I would think, I'm not exactly a 21-year-old, but I would think if a 21-year-old were going to be with or be in a relationship with an older woman, it's going to be one of two things. Either A, she is a succubus, meaning she is the manifestation of his wildest, lustful imagination. And he is being sexually satisfied by this individual to fulfill some whatever. Because we're going to be honest, a lot of times, and we all, I mean, I would say we all know this, but the reality is a lot of times these older MILFs, listen, I had friends in high school, okay, who in high school slept with their friends' mothers, because these older women will come on to the young men who are curious. And based on Jaylen Green's profile in this video that got out, do you not conclude that Jaylen Green was curious? He was most definitely curious, to say the least. So either she's the succubus, or B, she represents a level of maturity, stability, maybe some wisdom, direction, because some men like to get that from a woman. I don't know. Maybe he is this young man with resources, but not a very good head on his shoulders, and he needs a older woman to stabilize him in some way. I don't know, but that's what I would imagine. Okay. So does this woman represent that? Who is she, and does she represent that? Well, Draya Michele is an Italian, half African American, half Italian. All right, that's according to what I'm reading here. That kind of explains her look. But yeah, you know, no shade to the sister. You know what I'm saying? I'm just judging it for what it is. It is what it is. You know, we run the profile of your life. You have to accept that that's what you've done. So understand this. This woman got a son Jaylen Green's age, who is off in college, and another child by a different man who is younger. I think somewhere like 9, 10, 11 years old, right? Who obviously is probably living at home, et cetera, or maybe he goes between her house and dad's house. Who knows? Okay. So here's the other question about her. So we know off the rip, she's never been married. She has been engaged, but she's never been married. She got 2 kids, 2 baby daddies. That's what we know. What else do we know? Here's a very important question that we have to ask ourselves. Oh, and first of all, she's a model, by the way. She's a model. A model. Okay, great. More power to you. But here's an important question we got to ask ourselves. Has this woman ever been linked or tied to other NBA players? Why is that an important question? Because you need to know if what you're dealing with is a jump off groupie or a woman who is, as Proverbs 31 described, a wife. Because we're not going to be ignorant to the fact that, and Shaquille O'Neal said it, that after these games, I think it was Shaq, somebody said it, or no, I saw it in Love and Basketball. The brother was like, look, after the games, you know, these girls is lined up. They traveling with us. They going city to city. They know where we be at. They're putting themselves in place to be their one night fiasco, to be with you, these NBA groupies. So it's a very important question to understand. Has she been linked to other NBA players? And based on her filmography history, Basketball Wives LA, first of all, you never been nobody's wife. So she had to have been linked in a romantic situation with another NBA player back in the day. So what am I saying? Why am I saying? But before I even say all that, let's add some more to this, right? One of her children is by her ex-fiance, Orlando Lee Skandrick, right? Now, he, as you can see here, was a former American and former NFL player for the Dallas Cowboys. So, running this woman's resume, it speaks for itself, more or less what she is. We're just going to be honest. I'm not judging. I'm being honest. You can't run from your own history. This is what you chose to do. So, This is the resume. This is who we're talking about. Now, at the age of 39 years old, she comes across Mr. Jaylen Green, product of, for the most part, the Central Valley, California. Okay. And who do you think has more sexual experience? Who do you think has more relationship experience? Obviously, it is this woman. Who do you think was the primary driver of sexual intimacy? Now, that could go either way, but is it out of the scope of reality or out of the scope of possibility that this woman may have told Jaylen Green that she was on birth control, may have told Jaylen Green that she's on the patch or she's this or she's not ovulating? Is it out of the realm of possibility that she set a trap for Mr. Green? Now, we're not going to call it a trap, but this, I mean, if you played sports coming up and nobody ever taught you like, yo, bro, like you need to steer clear of these relationships with these young girls. Why? Because they see where you going and they want a piece of that. You learn this in high school, bro. So do you think when you get to the NBA, it stops? When these players actually make it, that there's not still women out there looking to set traps for these young men? I'm just saying. So now let's go to the next point. I think I've laid the foundation there. Is this the solution to the lack of morality in the Black community? This is my question. Why do I say that? I say that because in our communities, we already know and understand that 70-something% of Black households that are raising children are championed by a single parent. In other words, what I'm saying is our communities tend to carry before they marry. It's an afterthought. We have a lot of things, and obviously single parent households leads to a lot of vulnerable children, okay, that lead to a lot of problems in communities and crime, etc. So is the solution to this for the women who are mainly the ones who are having to take care of these children, for them to just try to be forever jump offs, going from one man to the next, laying traps for younger, inexperienced men in hopes that that man marry them? I'm not saying that it should be the answer. I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just asking a question. Because the way that some women cheered on this woman, or at least don't have a problem with what happened, you would have to come to that conclusion and say, well, hey, maybe they think this is the way that the community can be saved. That your 11-year-old son's going to learn wisdom from a 21-year-old man who didn't put a ring on your hand before you got pregnant. I mean, how serious was this relationship? Like what is really going on? But hey, I hope it turns out well for them. I really do. But if the past is any indicator of the future, then Mr. Green gonna be just another checkbox on the list. I mean, look at this woman. I'm not saying like, okay, oh, she's pretty, she's this and that, bro. She could have some serious issues. Let that woman not get what she wants. I mean, I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know them. You was engaged, but I understand sometimes things don't work out. But honey boo, you got some explaining to do. Honey boo, you got some explaining to do. I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. If this woman want to keep this man Jaylen Green, boy, all I'm gonna say is this, bro. She better get herself right and she better stay right. Because what she did, in my opinion, was kind of foul. Jaylen Green, not the wisest of moves, my friend. Not the wisest of moves. But I hope it works out for you, because you can turn this situation into a success. And this can be a win for our communities. I don't want to end it on a negative note. This can be a win for our communities if they can come together. I'm talking about as a threefold cord under the Lord, bro. And one thing I know for certain is that Mr. Green, being from the Central Valley area location, bro, I know somewhere inside of you is a love and a respect for God. And so I hope, my genuine hope from this whole situation is that you and her, you know what I'm saying, come together under that cord, because that's going to be the way for y'all to move your life right into the path of marriage. And that's what I would like to see from them, right? So again, as I said, is this an answer to a lack of morality in the community? I don't think it is, bro. To be honest with you, in terms of this approach, because I believe it will work for some, but for the majority, I don't think that this is sustainable. I don't believe so. So instead, and so what I mean by that is just like Jalen Green is like the one in 100,000 people who played high school basketball who will make it to the NBA and get a good contract, right? And make millions of dollars, right? There can also be a one in 100,000 people who have this type of situation and succeed. Okay. But you are the 0.0001% who did it. The other 99.999 failed. I'm not saying that's the exact ratio, but what I'm saying is that I think that we as a community should gravitate towards normalizing things that will lead to the success of the majority, right? Rather than worshiping and gravitating and utilizing this foolish looseness in our communities, which we've somewhat normalized, and then try to navigate and then try to drag God into the mess after it's already present, right? Looking for so much mercy and grace, like, yo, keep the commands, keep the commandment of God. And that goes for men and women. And then we can avoid these types of scenarios. The last thing I'm going to say is this. And again, as I said before, this is not an indictment on anyone in particular, but this scripture just was in my mind and I couldn't help but speak this. And this is how I'm going to end this video. It's one of my favorite scriptures, man. Proverbs chapter 5. This is wisdom. I'm going to read a few verses and I'm going to get out of here. My son, right? But I guess this can apply to my daughter as well. Pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ear to my words of insight, that you may maintain discretion, and your lips may preserve knowledge. For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey. Brother, she got game. Her lips, the scriptures say, the lips of the adulterous woman dripping honey. And her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. She gives no thought to the way of life. Her paths wander aimlessly, but she does not know it. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Do not turn aside from what I say. Keep to a path far from her. Do not go near the door of her house, lest you lose your honor to others and your dignity to one who is cruel. Lest strangers feast on your wealth and your toil enrich the house of another. At the end of your life, you will groan when your flesh and body are spent. You will say, how I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction. I would not obey my teachers or turn my ear to my instructors. And I was soon in serious trouble in the assembly of God's people. Brothers and sisters, this is a powerful word, And we know that this is speaking in particular about adulterous women, who are the wives of other men. And I want to bring that out. But I think that you can apply this also to an immoral woman or an immoral person. And the bottom line is that immoral people will have this part locked down. The lips of the immoral person. You understand me? They dripping honey. Their speech is smoother than oil. You better be careful out there. Be careful. I pray you get this wisdom, all right? I would love to hear your comments in the comment section. Like, share, and subscribe till we chat again. I am out.